years ago, and we had most of the Voyager cast. And we were able to get started on the documentary then. And of course, got shut down for a year from COVID, like everyone else. But our editor, Joe, has put together a piece from 2 years ago, so enjoy. Maybe some of you saw yourselves in there from 2 years ago. So anyway, I'm going to bring out two of my team members and then a couple extra guest stars. First, I'd like to interview. I'm tired. I would like to introduce Joe Kornbrodt. He is one of our producers, plays director, and is our editor. And next, Ryan Husk, please come out. Ryan most of you know Ryan because he's been our campaign manager. He's done a hell of a job. He's also a producer on the project. And is that a present for me, Ryan? Oh. And I'd like to now introduce Tim Russ. Tim's been great. He's given us a lot of extra time for the documentary, and we really are thankful for that. So thank you. And of course, Garrett Wang, who we are saying Garrett is the face of the documentary as far as actors. He's given a lot of time. And we're going to just bleed him some more too, so we're not done yet. But anyway, thanks to everybody. So I think before we open it up to answers and questions and answers, and we have another video, why don't you guys all just kind of start, Joe and Ryan first, to tell everybody where we're at with the documentary.
Well, first of all, it's good to be back here after 2 years. So, nice to see a lot of you again, and we got through it, so here we are. So, we were a little delayed after we got off this ship. We were able to film it.
From what?
There was this thing, it just affected a few billion people. And, so we did manage to film a few interviews in 2020. Garrett was one of them. And then, of course, we interviewed Tim on this ship, on this stage, after one of his shows. That's right, which was great. And then we had a crowdfunding campaign, and many of you here supported us and gave us a budget, so thank you. And we filmed about almost 40 interviews in Burbank, in California last year, and then we've filmed over the last 6 months. We were filmed in Los Angeles, we went to Destination Star Trek, and we interviewed Kate Mulgrew there, which was a big highlight for the documentary and for us as a team. And we have a few more interviews to go and some special things to do, but we're very close to wrapping our production and moving into our post-production phase. So that's exciting because once we get through that, we're that much closer to getting the film out to you. I'm not going to give you any dates, but we're working on it.
I just want to extend a very, very hearty thank you to everybody that not only donated, but also liked any post or commented or shared or followed or did any of those things, because whether you donated your time or your money, you actually did make this film happen. And that's something that's going to last forever. You can tell your grandkids, you can die, and it's still true. And it's just a really amazing thing to know that you are now going to be a part of history, because this film is going to last forever. And this show that we love with these two gentlemen right here is going to be loved and cherished forever in this film that Joe is editing. So thank you all for that.
Mention again the highest rated, independent documentary of all time. Can you tell
Oh
us?
yeah, there was also a little thing about being the highest funded documentary in the history of, I guess, the world, right?
Which is the highest crowdfunded documentary.
Yeah, which is probably the highest ever in the history of the galaxy, I would think.
In how many billions of years has the universe existed?
So that was $1.3 million, and that's going to go all into this movie, and it's going to be really great. How many of you have seen the Deep Space Nine documentary, by the way? So Joe won't say this now, but he has made a promise it will be even better than that one. He didn't promise that, actually, so we don't. I just realized we're
Well, it's going to be
this.
better because of this guy who just joined us, Robert Picardo. Thank you, Bob, for coming. We did have a great interview. I've been doing all the interviews, which has been really fun because it's been an emotional roller coaster. Because I've known everybody associated with Voyager now for 27 years, since I was there from the beginning too. So we've had laughs and we've had tears, and it's been great reunions. Some people hadn't seen each other since the show wrapped, so it's been quite a ride. Seriously, a wonderful ride. So, Tim, can you speak?
Oh yes, I was supposed to be sleeping last night, but I was watching a couple episodes of this show. It was really good. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's Voyager. I had not seen those episodes. I haven't seen a lot of the episodes actually, and the most of episodes I've seen on Voyager have been on this cruise a year ago, and this one. So, watching last night, there were Resolutions and Tuvix. I have not seen those.
Tuvix? You watched Tuvix?
I did. Those were actually pretty good. I was impressed. I cannot remember anything about working on those shows. I cannot remember the days or the dialogue or anything else. But it was very good. It was done very well. I can see why it might be a pretty popular show, this one. These guys have worked their tail off in this documentary, and documentaries are very, very difficult to make. They're time-consuming. They're meticulous. They are really, really hard. It takes a long time to put them together. So, man, my hat's off to everybody who's worked on this, and including the fans that funded it. Wow, a record-breaking number of fans, and the money they donated to make it happen. So, I love the trailer. The first time I'd seen it was today. So. That was great, and that's just a snippet of what you're going to get in the documentary. So look forward to it, and thank you very much for supporting it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know he does. Bob's joining us for a quick minute.
Hi, I have a 4:30 rehearsal of my show for Wednesday, which I hope you'll all come to. Garrett's show tomorrow night, he works in one by himself, so he doesn't need to rehearse because it's all inside him. But I have a guy I got to rehearse with at 4:30. But I wanted to express my support for this amazing project. I thought the trailer, you can't help but get a little, kind of pit in your stomach, knowing that, as Ryan said, that this will this document will preserve what was special about our show forever, for people in the future to watch, because the great thing about Star Trek is it never goes away. Once you're on a Star Trek series, people watch it forever. But now this documentary, which we'll talk about, what made our show unique and forward-looking, even in a forward-looking franchise, because of obviously of Kate, first female captain, and because of what Tim says in the opening clip, that really it was the most of the successor series that was in the spirit of the original series. So I am really excited about it too. I did an interview just a few months ago in Los Angeles, in addition to the interview where I wore the same stupid hat that I have on this cruise. The hat apparently never changes. When they have documents like this, you really have to change your clothes, I've learned. In any case, I wish I could stay for the whole thing. As I said, I have the rehearsal, but after, I'm going to wait for Garrett's response, and then I'm going to sneak out, all right? Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. It is amazing that the fundraiser was the most generated in the history of fundraisers. But that means there's a parallel universe where the Voyager fundraiser was the lowest ever fundraised. You know, when I was in high school, that's the first time I heard that adage. And adages, when people say things, these sayings, you never know where they come from. But one thing I heard was never trust anyone that has two first names, Tim, Russ. But this two first name guy, I trust. So talented. And now that you've actually watched the show, and that you're impressed with the show, I think you should come up with a song, Tim, about the show. It should go something like this. Voyager, the best Star Trek ever. Sorry, TOS, and TNG, and DS9, and Enterprise. Can you do something like that?
I'll do that, man.
Okay. All right. Bob, you need to run, because I'm going to go on for a little bit longer. Yeah, go ahead and just go. Sorry. We love you, Bob Picardo.
Thank you,
you
Bob.
for coming here. Oh my goodness. What was I going to say? I don't even remember what I was going to say now that I've hammed it up. Tuvix, the Tuvix episode. Okay, first of all, that actor that played Tuvix, like, you got a whole vacation when we were filming that episode. You weren't even there, right? But that actor was so cool, and I really, really enjoyed working with him. And I have to admit something to you. I feel really bad about this, but I kind of was like, man, I wish he could stay. But if that happened, you wouldn't have been there anymore. You
That
know?
is
So
correct,
yeah.
yes.
So I just want to admit to you, and I don't want to apologize that I even had that thought, that I entertained that thought of keeping that actor and kind of throwing you overboard. I'm so sorry. Okay.
You know, on another show, that could very well have happened, you know?
Yeah.
They could have gotten rid of the two actors and kept the one that was a blend.
Yeah.
That could have definitely happened. The producers thought, yeah, that's a good idea, let's leave it.
Right. But then Ethan Phillips would have been out of a job too.
Both of us would have been out of the gig
because-
just that quick. Tom Wright played that role.
Tom Wright
He
was
brilliant
amazing.
in that role.
So
Absolutely
good.
brilliant. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Or could they have still extracted some DNA and still had Tuvok and Neelix and Tuvix in a way? I don't know.
I don't know. They would have had to add, would have added another crew member at that time.
Yeah. I'd be cool with that.
You gotta
I like
bring
that
us
guy.
back.
I thought he
You gotta
was-
bring us back at the end. Man,
Yeah.
You know? That was a really deep show. That was heavy.
Yeah.
It was very heavy.
Yeah.
His character was not happy with having to go.
Yeah. And he pleaded to everybody.
Yeah,
And
everybody
nobody would
did
even
not
lift
wanna
their
go.
finger. It was just, yeah.
That's cold, man.
Well,
Yeah.
that's because they love you and
That's
Neelix
cool.
so much.
What?
That's because they loved Tuvok and Neelix,
Neelix,
so
so,
much.
yeah.
You
There
know,
you
he
go.
had to die in order for us to get you back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can see the look on Kate's face when she walks out of the sick bay. Well, that's not a happy camper on
No. She's so angry. She's like,
upset.
oh yeah, upset.
Really upset.
How dare you stay alive? I need my Tuvok back. I want to hear him play his Vulcan lute. And I need my Neelix, my morale officer. I need him now.
I think Garrett is auditioning for he wants a documentary called the Garrett Wang documentary.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Tim and I have done so many conventions. Like while we were on Voyager, filming Voyager, many weekends we would be flying off to sign autographs in some city around the world, usually around the U.S. But at one point, I remember we were in the makeup trailer. I don't know if you remember this, but we kind of timed ourselves on how fast we could sign our autograph. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, so what if like Robbie Duncan McNeil? So he's like Robbie Duncan McNeil, star, whatever. And then we timed that, you know. Then I was like Garrett Wang, faster than Robbie McNeil. And Tim Russ is just T and a R's. So he goes T's. So it was like 1.8 seconds, 1.3 seconds, and 0.2, like right here. Finished. Now, do you remember this?
That was my signature well before Voyager.
Was it?
Yeah. That's what I signed my driver's license up just the same way. So
You gotta be careful with
I
that.
was very lucky to have booked that show, and
Yeah.
I had to sign as many graphs as I had to sign,
Well,
as quick as I could.
yeah.
That was my signature.
Yes.
Legal signature.
But we live in a world where we have identity fraud, so you have to be careful about that. I was actually at a convention, someone asked me to sign an index card, and after I signed it for the young man, he started walking away, and he turned back and says, so is this the signature you use for all legal documents? And it was, but I was like, no, it's not. It is absolutely not. I use a very gothic G when I sign that one, so. All right, so what's going on with the documentary? For me, the news came out that I would be traveling to Europe, to Bordeaux, France, to work with the European Space Agency to get on a zero-G flight to experience zero gravity with the ESA. So this is what Garrett Tim is gonna do. This zero-G plane does 20 some odd, up and down so that you're experiencing zero-G. Some people have called it a vomit rocket. I will be injected with a motion sickness, some agent,
I thought you didn't want to do the motion sickness shot.
I am definitely doing the motion sickness.
Yeah, you better.
I will do that, or it's gonna be Harry Kim's breakfast just floating. Oh, I just put that image in your head. I'm so sorry. So anyway, so this is very exciting news that this is going to happen at the end of March. So I have to go back to LA, get an EKG done, make sure I'm okay to get on this zero-G flight. We'll be with other individuals there. Joe will be there, and we're going to film a lot of this. And so this will also be footage that will be included into the documentary.
And we'll have the great Jonathan West with us as well.
Oh yes, the director of photography from Deep Space Nine and TNG. Yeah, so he will be there with us as well. So we have that gentleman at our resort to help us complete this documentary. Exactly. Yeah.
To make you even more beautiful than you are.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And make the film look really good.
I agree. You know the funny thing, this is the funny thing about that comment, is that I've heard it a few times, fans will come up and say, the Voyager cast, just too good looking. Not allowed. No. Have you heard that before, Tim?
I have not.
Okay. So you've only watched 3 Voyager episodes total? Or
No,
the one that you watched last night?
I've watched a number of them. I just haven't watched all of them.
Oh.
I maybe seen half of them by
Yeah.
now. On the show, we were just too busy, working on the show, and I'd read the scripts already, so I knew what the stories were.
Yeah.
But after that, I had the collection of the DVDs, but only half the collection because Paramount wouldn't give me the other half. So I didn't have all of them, and now I have all of them, but I haven't watched them because I don't think I have my DVD player anymore. But besides that, apart from that, I haven't streamed them. I just, and when
Okay.
I'm on the cruise, like last time and this time is when I've actually watched
Makes sense.
a lot of the shows, the episodes, because they're playing all the time in a loop. So it was nice to see them.
I've never asked you this question, but what is your favorite Tuvok episode?
You mean my favorite, the heavy Tuvok
Heavy Tuvok
storyline?
storyline, yeah, that you had.
I liked Rise with Ethan.
Rise.
Yeah, I
Okay.
liked that one because it was we had that confrontation and that conflict going on while there was also the problem that we had on the storyline,
Yes.
which was a murder mystery.
Yeah. Story by Jimmy
but-
Diggs, our friend Jimmy
Yeah,
Diggs.
it was really an interesting story,
Mhm.
and we were in that sort of space elevator, which is kind of a
Yep.
scientific concept in itself.
I remember that.
So that was one of my favorite
Yep.
episodes. Was that one? The other one was Future's End,
Okay.
which I think was on a couple nights ago, whatever it was. I think when we started, but Future's End was fun because I got to run around all of Los Angeles in civilian clothes.
Yes, you did.
With Sarah Silverman. the
Oh
comedian.
yeah, you guys had a whole bunch of fun on that one.
boy, we had a
Guess
that
who they
was-
left on the ship?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't have any fun.
Yeah.
At all. Just watching all the other actors wear normal human clothing, and I had to wear that horrible Starfleet uniform.
There you go.
You lucky dog, you.
There you go. And I've seen pieces of one other episode where
Okay.
I think it was a Q episode, and man, I don't remember. I don't remember the location.
The
We were
Q
out-
in the gray? That
No,
one?
no. We're out in the middle of the desert,
Oh.
and there was a
wait.
house,
Yes.
and there was another counterpart of his, I think,
Yeah, it was
from the continuum.
Q2, yes.
Yeah, and I don't remember anything about shooting that episode.
Oh,
I
wow.
do not remember. I was looking at it going, when the hell did I do that?
Yeah.
When was that? I don't remember the dialogue. I don't remember the location because that was not on the soundstage. That was out in the boondocks in the desert. And I kind of remember when we left the stage because we don't usually do that. And
Yeah.
sure enough, I could not remember a single thing about that. That is just crazy. That's how busy we were and how everything kind of blended together after 7 years. So.
There's an actor.
I was going to ask, did you watch the episode that you directed?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen the episode I directed, but just some of the ones I was in and I worked in, I could not. I mean, that one I couldn't remember the storyline, and I couldn't remember that location. That's what threw me, is I couldn't remember the location because it's not on the soundstage. It's actually on location.
Right.
You know, nowadays they could film that on a 3D projector,
Yeah.
you know, and you could be in the studio doing it, but then you had to go way out to the location to get to it. I still
Yeah.
remember it. So, wow.
Do you remember the movie Independence Day?
Yes.
Okay, so the very, very first scene is this tech guy working for SETI, and he detects the initial signal that the aliens are here. That guy is my doppelganger. This guy looks so close to how I looked when I was in college, when I was younger. It is scary. And I remember I was watching Independence Day in the movie theater, and the scene comes on, and I go, no. And I look at whoever I was with, I was like, when did I film this? And then I met this actor at a screening of a film that I had done, and he was at the screening, and he's probably 4 inches taller than me, so he's a really tall Asian dude. And he looks, again, it's like looking in a mirror, but the only difference is his laugh is, okay, so I said, hey, you're the one in Independence Day. He's like, yeah. He had this like old jalopy sounding laugh. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was the only thing that was different, that laugh and my laugh, I would have to say. And what's weird about the episode you like, Rise, your episode, Rise, Bob, who's not here, his episode, Darkling, and my episode, Favorite Son, is known as the Trilogy of Terror. Did you know this?
No, I didn't.
These are evidently the 3 worst Star Trek Voyager episodes ever.
Wow. Well, that's not good.
I didn't say this. I'm just saying, this is a fan consensus. And the 3 Voyager actors in the 3 worst episodes were just here sitting together.
I don't know what to say about that.
Okay. All right.
I just enjoyed working on it.
Okay.
I thought it was, you know, it was an interesting, between our 2 characters, I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was very cool. So, yeah, I still think it was a cool episode. I still enjoyed it.
I think we should be in a spin-off Trek show called Star Trek The Odd Couple, you and I.
You are doing it right now.
It's
You don't
happening.
realize it.
I know.
It would definitely be odd.
So, Garrett, we're going to open it up to question and answers.
Yes,
but
yes,
before
let's-
we do
yes.
that, we have another sneak peek for you.
Oh, more sneak peek.
So I think you guys might have to move. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Should we move out of the way?
Just
Yeah.
to the side.
Just come over here.
So, I haven't seen this. Well, I have seen it. If I say that. You have to give a special round of applause to Joe for putting that together single-handedly for us. Thank you. By the way, for those of you who didn't know who those first 3 people was, that is the wonderful Jeri Taylor, who you saw first, co-creator of Voyager. And then it was Brandon Braga and God bless Michael, and Rick Berman. Rick Berman, Jeri Taylor, and Michael Piller all created Voyager together. Michael, of course, has been gone for quite a while. And Brandon ran that show for most of the 7 years. So we were fortunate enough to get great interviews with the 3 of them, and many, many more behind-the-scenes people. I mean, a lot more. But I just wanted to let you know, for those of you who didn't know who those were. So we had the privilege of interviewing Jeri Taylor. So
It was a great privilege.
yes, it was. So anyway, we'd love to hear your questions. And oh, you're quick on the spot, John. Okay, they're going to have you come up to the microphones, I guess. There's a lovely lady on each side.
So this question is for Joe, as an editor. I know you've got a lot of footage and lots of clips and audio and all these video assets. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of editing this documentary?
That's a good question. It is daunting, I guess, but you know, you work it very methodically. You know, you film the interviews, and then a key component for us is you get transcripts of everything, and it's tied to time code. So where it is in the video, you can trace things, and you read the transcripts, and it's sort of like sculpture in the sense that the material, the stories that everybody tells speak to you. And you know, when we make a documentary, we look for as many diverse voices about the same subjects as possible. And because everybody processes things differently, but you can get an overall picture from a very rational-like approach, but you get an overall picture of complex situations. And sometimes people agree, sometimes people disagree, but ultimately, you know, you get a sense of that, and you get a richer story, more complex. But it requires pouring through hours and hours, pages and pages of stuff to find that story. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just came from a whiskey tasting, so I don't remember what you said word for word.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. We know where you're at right now.
So you said in the trailer that in the 90s you were like the only Asian showrunner.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering.
The only Asian showrunner?
Not showrunner, but you know, like.
The whiskey, I know.
You had a lot of something you didn't like.
She's like, oh, I hate it.
Give me another one.
No, I hate this. Oh my God, this is the worst.
This is the worst.
Straight whiskey. God. Sorry. All right. So what's the question?
Trying to make a promotion. Okay?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
So when that realization came to you, just like, how did you feel?
I felt that I had a lot of responsibility to live up to, and especially when I received fan letters from young Asian American kids saying like, you're my role model. I look up to you. There's no one else on TV. And it was similar to when I was a kid. The only person I saw that I could look up to was George Takei. That was it. I mean, there was nothing else on television. So it was a great responsibility and something that I had to take seriously, you know. So it was overwhelming, really, to think about that. But thank you for that question. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You deserve the promotion.
You can clap. Go ahead. Clap for the whiskey, if anything.
My reason, I mean, I've seen a number of them. I just haven't seen all of them. We did 26 shows per year, which is pretty amazing compared to what the number of shows come on nowadays for seasons. So we had 26 shows and 7 years of each one of those. And it's just a number of shows that I haven't been able to.
Don't beat yourself up.
Oh no, yeah, and you know, it just was not for any, obviously, just because I worked on the shows, I knew the stories at the time, and I just didn't have time to watch them. But and over time, I'm sort of picking them up as we go along, and it's actually quite refreshing to catch a few of them now and then.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter is, it's a very small percentage of every Star Trek cast that happens to be a sci-fi fan before they were cast on Star Trek. And the 2 Star Trek fans, or the sci-fi fans on Voyager, I consider myself and Tim Russ, to be perfectly honest. Like every now and then, Timmy, you remember this, we would recreate the scene from, was it Rathacon, when Spock is inside the warp core, and so Spock's inside the warp core, so you're dying from radiation, and I'm Shatner, I'm Kirk, okay? So just kind of act like you're dying right now, real quick. Just, and I'm like, Spock! 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 And you touch my hand on the, yeah. Okay, just so you know, Tim's a little tired right now. When we normally did, and we did this multiple times throughout the years. I was like, let's do the warp core scene, and we would just randomly do it outside the trailer, on the set, and he would be much more into it. Like this was a very reserved version.
Sometimes, not all the time.
I thought you were into every time.
I was just as tired on the set.
Okay. You just humored me. Thank you. Thanks, Uncle Tim. Thank you. All right.
Hi. So my question is, how do you feel about how it all ended? Because I would have killed for a few more episodes just to see how they kind of came back to their old lives and what had changed when they were away. And like, oh, I would love to see that. That would be an amazing film. Please make that. So, yeah, just from your perspective, how would you feel? You know, when you would have came back, and things have all changed and people have left.
Yeah, you know, when I read the final episode of Voyager, it was a two-parter, and I thought the first hour was wonderful. The second hour tied up everything way too quickly, and we end up in orbit of Earth. And I thought, what is going on? So I actually approached the showrunners at the time. I said, hey, here's my idea. Film the first hour, show that on television, and then say, to be continued at a theater near you, and it's a 2.5-hour Voyager movie getting back home.
That's
all
a
right?
good idea.
Thank you. That would have been amazing. But instead, what did they do? They filmed that god-awful TNG film. It was just like their last two TNG films, in my opinion, because I feel they are worse than, there are TNG episodes that are better than those last two films. And if you have episodes that are better than your film, don't film it, okay? So, but they looked at me and said, he's the young guy in the show. What is he gonna know? Get out of my office. So they didn't listen to me, but we need a Voyager movie. And I love your Scottish accent. It's just like, I can listen to you all day long, just talking.
I thought it was okay. It was about the captain. I mean, those last two episodes, basically wrapping up the story. It began with the captain making the decision to go after that alien character getting stuck in the Delta Quadrant. She was responsible for where they were for 7 years, so they wanted to really focus on her character bringing us back, and bringing us back without, all of these my character having the situation I was in with dementia and things like that, so they really wanted to focus on Kate more so than the whole cast and crew getting back home. But yeah, and that's what everybody was expecting. But typical with writers and producers is they'll try to do something that you were not expecting. They wouldn't want to do something run of the mill, so they wanted to do something very, very different, and they did. So some people like it, some people aren't that crazy about it. But I can understand you wanting to see where everybody went, and
The welcome home parade.
welcome home thing. Yes,
Right?
would have been very cool.
What about your reunion with your wife, T'Pel?
Yeah,
And how many kids did you have? Do you
Two
remember?
kids.
2, and your 2 Vulcan kids.
Would have been cool.
Okay.
It was a
4. 2 buckets back to Earth. There's a clown car, and all these kids get out, like one after another.
I was gone for 7 years, so obviously, T'Pel, what are you doing?
T'Pel. I left and there were 2 kids, and there's 9 now. What happened to T'Pel?
What the hell's going on?
And I thought that was the great thing about Voyager, is you did what a lot of the other shows seem not do, and that was look out the window. And I think that made you better scripts, better stories. And as a science fiction fan, I really got my trek on with that. I really appreciate what you did.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
About that, but the astronomy part of it too. We were watching this television show on the History Channel on astronomy, and they're showing all these different physicists and scientists, and then suddenly Tim Russ, astronomer. And I was completely floored by that you were involved in that, and that you were credited as an astronomer. And how did that come about?
That was NASA's Unexplained Files. It's the name of the series. That's literally the name of the series, NASA's Unexplained Files. And it's actually really good. That is one really good show, because each segment in that documentary hour covers a lot of mysteries, space mysteries and oddities and things like that, and the scientists explain what they might be. So they contacted me a couple of years ago and said, would you be interested in contributing to the show? And I thought, well, hell, man, I don't have a PhD in astrophysics or astrobiology or planetary science. I mean, are you sure you want me to be on? I said, yeah, we'd like to have, because you're an amateur astronomer and such, you work with Griffiths Observatory, and you know, and because I guess the profile of myself on Voyager. So I said, okay, fine. So they came to my house and we filmed for a couple hours, and they sent me the kinds of questions they wanted to talk to me about and ask me about, and then just cut my segments into the episodes. I was really thrilled to have a chance to be on that show, because I watched it. I mean, I was watching it before I was on it. So fascinating. It was wonderful. And we're talking about real hard science, you know, space science. It was great. Yeah.
You know how Michael Dorn spends all his money on planes? This one spends all his money on telescopes. He has a very, very extensive collection of high-powered telescopes. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. We're not supposed to touch mic. So I'm a small Asian woman.
Small Asian woman.
But I'm a proud Navy captain.
Hello, small Asian American captain.
So actually, it's interesting that you say that. So because I'm 4'10" and I am who I am, even in uniform, a lot of times people would just sort of look past me and like, dude, I'm a captain. Really? And it would take a few months of being at a new duty station before I would actually get the respect of, yeah, no, she's not the little Asian captain, she really is just the captain. So at what point does Captain Janeway stop being the female Star Trek captain and just be a Star Trek captain?
Good question.
I'll tell you when they swear in the first female president of the United States of America.
Yeah,
That's probably.
What is your ship? What ship are you captain on? Fantastic. Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you for your service.
It was wonderful to see Jeri Taylor up there. I'm a big Jeri Taylor fan, and her comment was like, "Oh, they didn't need me," or you know, they could have done this without me. I just like for any of you to comment on what did she bring to Voyager? What did Jeri Taylor's vision? Because I've been following her since she was a sports writer back in Bloomington, Indiana. So,
well, I can tell you, because I worked with Jeri for many years, and there would not be Captain Janeway or this good Voyager without Jeri. You know, she's very humble, so for her to say that, she means it, but she also knows they needed her. And, you know, she is Janeway, and Janeway was Jeri. And, you know, Jeri's, you know, older now, obviously, and she's always been very meek and mild, but underneath that meek and mild thing, she is a strong, powerful woman. And she worked in Hollywood in a time where women did not work in Hollywood, much before Star Trek. I mean, her career goes way back, if you follow it. So I don't think we would have had the character of Captain Janeway without Jeri Taylor.
I had a brief correspondence, and I was just saying, as a leader myself, what the Janeway character, and I just felt like it was Jeri Taylor who really made that happen. I just thanked her, so I thank you for affirming that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, she was ahead of the curve in terms of the Me Too movement. She was way ahead of the curve when we put her on in the 90s to be the captain of the ship. That was a lot of forward thinking. And now sort of the rest of society has caught up to that and looking at female lead characters in very strong leadership roles on television all throughout. A lot of sci-fi stuff in particular, action things and all that kind of stuff, and dramas, playing a female president, et cetera, et cetera. So we see she was ahead of the curve. And quite frankly, I don't know anybody else who could have done that role any better than Kate Mulgrew. I can tell you right now, because that was one hell of a role to try to pull off. Over here.
Thank you. My question also starts with Jeri Taylor. I had the privilege of seeing her in Star Trek Las Vegas last summer, and she said at the time that when she worked on TNG, she was very unequivocal that the actors, you know, in her words, they knew their job of acting, they did not question the writers, they took the scripts as it was given, they didn't opine on them. And I wondered if any of that had changed by the time that you were working on Voyager, because I found that some of my favorite things about episodes are when an actor might insert a little bit of dialogue or an idea for their character arc, like when the Now Visitor refused to let Kira have a romance with Gul Dukat. And Garrett, you gave another great example with your idea about how they could have done that to be continued in a theater near you. So I love the ideas of actors, and were you ever able to bring anything to that on Voyager?
They were sticklers when it came to the script, the writers.
Oh, yes.
They really did. We could not, we couldn't diverge from what was written on that. We'd have to call in to the office to say, and usually it wasn't about a creative, idea or impetus. It was really about the lines would turn out to be a tongue twister, so that, because a lot of times writers, I think they write on their computer and they don't say the lines out loud. And so then when we're reading them, we're like, oh my gosh, I can't get this out of my mouth. There's no way. So we call up to get, a change of that to make it flow better. And a lot of times we would get the response, make it work. And that was it. And so we would have to sit there and work with it. So they were really difficult to deal with when it came to changing things.
I think the only time I worked with writers a few times here and there was in the story, like either the script was just in the process of being written or just been the first draft to just come out, because they're always going to have revisions. So there was a couple of times when I asked them to adjust something for Tuvok's character, because I was a Vulcan and I thought, well, this is not very Vulcan. It needs to be a little bit more this or that. And they did make an adjustment here and there, small adjustments. And I worked with a writer, Lisa Klink, and I worked with a couple others on the Pon Farr episode. We didn't have any Vulcan lore that had been established on any of the previous shows or films for the part of the storyline. So I actually reached out to me in that case and was asking me, well, how, what I thought about, where this arc should go for this Pon Farr episode, because we didn't have anything to base it on. We had to make it up, and we did, in fact, make it up based on just what we had, whatever had been established prior. We just sort of expanded on that and sort of assumed this is the way we can make it happen. So we did do some work on that. We had to figure out what to do when I was supposed to dance for Neelix at the end of that episode when he leaves the ship. What was that dance going to be? It took 3 or 4 days to figure out what that was going to be. We just went back and forth, which, I talked to them, they talked to me, we pitched some things back and forth. And then I think also in Gravity, the episode Gravity, when I had to say goodbye to the woman who'd saved me and had fallen in love with me, and a way for me to be able, I had to tell her that, I could not stay with her, and, that I was, I had to leave. I had to go back to my job, and I had a wife already. So how are we going to say goodbye? And then we decided to do a meld instead of saying any words or lines. It just did in a meld and then her facial reaction. And we came up with that as well, working with the writers. So sometimes it didn't work. In the episode Meld, I wanted to work with Michael Piller. I wanted to find out in the story why. I wanted my character to discover why Suitor commits the violent act, why he does the murder. And Michael said he didn't want to go down that way. He didn't want to pursue that. He didn't want my character to discover what the motive was for doing the murder. He wasn't interested in doing that. And we went back and forth quite a bit on that until, I couldn't get him to make that change. So
I made a lot of suggestions myself, and all of them fell on deaf ears. I do think it was a matter of age bias, looking at me as the youngin' on the show. But I suggested, my main suggestion was, allow the human characters to be funny. Please put more funny stuff from the, not just Neelix and the Doctor. Allow the human characters, because all the actors on Voyager were supremely funny. And you see my clip about that on the documentary. By the way, that one documentary footage, I realized I looked just like Kim Jong-un. I'm like, what the heck is up with my Kim Jong-un hair? Okay? That was the in-between phase. I don't know what to do with this. So I shellacked it, and I go, I look like Kim Jong-un now. All right, so anyway, that's just my gripe. But the only thing I suggested that they listened to me was, I said, I want to switch my instrument from clarinet to saxophone. So in the last few episodes, you see a saxophone in Harry's quarters. That's the only thing they took from me, unfortunately. Yeah. Thank you, though, for your question.
We have literally 4 minutes. So
okay, let's get them all. Let's get them all.
Through these four
before
questions.
we do a last question, I just want to make a quick announcement.
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead, please.
All right.
Make it quick. Go.
So after this panel, if you want some really, really cool exclusive Voyager documentary goodies, we've got some to hand out. Just come to the front of the stage once this is over.
Calmly.
Very
Come to the
calmly.
front
And
of the
some of
stage.
it you can actually use on this ship. It's relevant to the ship, so you're going to love it.
Wow.
And I just have a quick question before we get to you four. How many of you?
No.
Thank you. I'm going anyway. How many of you are coming on any of our away missions in a couple months in LA? All right.
3 people, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now that side.
Okay, I'm gonna make this quick. One of the things I've always liked about Star Trek is the way the characters are not just their jobs. I mean, it's science fiction, but they're not all technobabble. They're not all, well, this sciencey thing, that sciencey thing. They have hobbies. They have interests. And you see the characters pursuing arts, which is something that our current society doesn't really seem to have a lot of time for. So this is a question for Garrett. When was the last time you picked up a clarinet or a saxophone?
Quickly, Garrett. Quickly.
During the show, pretty much. That was it. I asked to keep my clarinet at the end. I said, "Can I keep the clarinet?" They're like, "No." So I guess I won't continue with my clarinet playing. Yeah, unfortunately. Thank you though for asking.
This question is for Garrett as well. Have
Oh.
you produced a comedy special, or when are you going to do that?
Yeah, well, this is what I wanted to talk to Lolita about. I really feel like that I think I should try to get some type of collaboration with ECP where they record one of the shows, live shows with you guys, and then I go to Paramount Plus and pitch it as my 1-hour comedy special. I mean, come on. I mean, if you look at Netflix is handing out comedy specials like candy, right? Why can't Paramount Plus throw a comedy special with me just doing Trek comedy? Why not? So, yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
If out of all those other shows, what was your favorite roles that you've done?
Oh, well, I really enjoyed working on that show in particular, iCarly, because those kids were wonderful to work with, and the producer was very, very good. So I get a chance to do some comedy and things like that was fabulous. I did a lot of episodic work, and so there were certain shows every once in a while that were a lot of fun, just to do something different and interesting. And most of those projects, a lot of them also were independent films. So they come and go. I just did one for NCIS recently where I got a chance to play guitar on it live with a bunch of musicians from New Orleans, which was a big fat kick in the pants. That was wonderful because I got a chance to actually play and film everything that was being played live. So wonderful time. So that was one of my favorites. Just, you know, obviously with Star Trek and playing Tuvok's character, to have that for 7 years was, you know, I'll be the crown and the jewel. You know? There you go.
Thank you.
Last but
Last
not
question.
least.
My question is for Garrett. If Tim writes a song for the documentary, will you write a haiku or a limerick?
Sure, I will write a haiku or a limerick.
In a second.
In a second, most definitely. Thank you.
Do you think Garrett was going to say no? Come on. I want to thank you all for coming and supporting the documentary. And we will see anyone up here. The 3 of us will have some goodies for you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Tim.
everyone for coming.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Garrett.
Thank